Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Kenny Lee, founder of Manta. Kenny, it's such a delight to have you here. It was not very easy to get you here. What has your experience at Davos been like so far?
Well, first of all, just thank you for having me. This has been a great experience. And overall in Davos, this is my first time. And I think that the quality of the conversations that I've been having, as well as the level of insight, is tremendous. Because I feel like it's very rare to have such an event where you have thought leaders from all different industries, all different spaces that are here just to, contribute knowledge. And so it's a very rare and blessed opportunity.
So for someone who is watching this from 30,000 feet, understands the word blockchain, knows what an L1 is, and has asked you in the past, does the world need one more L1? As in, how do you justify Manta's existence and future? What would you say?
Yeah, that's a really good question because with Manta, we've done a lot of pivots, and I think it's critical for any project in this space to continue to pivot to find the product market fit. Through each of these chapters, we found product market fit for their time, but the space evolves continuously. And so even with Manta, what we've recognized is that there's way too much infrastructure. And so continuing down the infrastructure path, especially right now, as use cases, product market fit is barely even there, is probably a futile effort. And so we've entirely pivoted over to the application side. And so Manta is very much focused on building financial tooling because we believe that's where the true market fit will be.
Excellent. So in the mid-90s, as you can tell, I was in my 20s in the mid-90s. So,
okay.
The most important companies used to be, in the internet space, used to be things like Sycamore networks, things you don't hear now, because they were laying the real physical infrastructure. Then came the web infrastructure people level, and then came the apps like Facebook, Amazon, what have you. And when the apps came, they became bigger than the infra players. How far are we from that space where we have massive apps in Web3?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you put a lot of color into that because I think that that's exactly how the crypto space is evolving as well. But I do think we're still extremely early stage. My thesis, at least in the next 5 years, is that there's only one particular industry that the blockchain industry currently can serve, and that is finance. And so, when it comes to applications and the expansion of these types of applications, I think the levels that we're going to see are not going to be what we saw with Facebook, in the sense that not all consumers are going to be using it, not all consumers are going to be interested in it. But I think for users who are interested in financial tooling, financial access that they don't normally have through the traditional system, I think that's where the explosion can really be. But I'd say that, especially right now, with the level of scaling that crypto still suffers from, the application growth and the infrastructure growth probably have to go hand in hand.
I'm going to try to throw some numbers into what I just asked, and this will be probably the last question. Using round numbers, there are about 2 billion people who use Facebook and the Facebook family, Instagram, WhatsApp, and those sort of things. I don't have the numbers, but I'm sure more than 2 billion human beings make payments. So if, for example, Web3, crypto, were to be in the payment infrastructure space, we should see apps which are bigger than Facebook. What do you say?
That's a really good question because I think one of the main differences here is that, with Facebook, things don't, well, I guess it's a very different demographic, right? So for example, you can be a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old that uses Facebook, right? But I'd say that when it comes to making payments, especially substantial payments, you're probably going to cut out anyone under the age of 18 for at least a period of time, right? And so I think that when you kind of single out the demographics, then I'd say that probably the financial world is still a little bit limited because not only are you thinking about age demographics, you're thinking about early adopter demographics as well, right? How many people actually own Bitcoin right now? It's still very little. And so I think when you try to expand that market, it's definitely going to take time. But I think we'll get there.
That was Kenny Lee from Manta Network, and as you could see, there was a lot of depth and understanding in what he had to say. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you for having me.